Laugh out loud, it's the place to be, where geeky minds meet so naturally. From pixel legends to blockbuster heart, dive right in, let's set this vibe apart.
Laugh out loud. It is absolutely the place when you want to have a camera stuffed in your face. We have some interesting movies tonight.
Yeah, we have 3 movies. They're all about TV in some form or another.
Living in TV. Let's just say I'm living in TV.
Pretty much living in TV. 2 of them are the same idea, but taking it from 2 different angles is the way I was looking at it. So
Okay.
it's going to be, a lot of TV. A lot of TV talk tonight.
Yeah.
So this
TV Town Talk.
TV Town Talk.
Yes.
Wasn't that the name of the show from UHF? Town?
Yes. Which is one of those we're going to talk about. With, what is it, Nazi and lesbian hookers abducted by aliens and forced into weight loss programs.
Sure.
I'm like 97% sure. Why don't you Google that line? Nazi lesbian hookers abducted by aliens and forced into weight loss programs.
Lesbian hookers abducted, if I could spell, by aliens. That's as far as I'm going with that.
I'm sorry, I was off by one word. It looks like it's lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs.
Oh, and it's okay.
Sorry, I said aliens, UFOs. It's pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe we could get Matt and get a final ruling on this one.
Well,
He would know.
the 3 movies we're doing is UHF,
Mm-hmm.
EdTV, and The Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, they're all TV related in some form or another. Cameras,
Lights,
light,
action,
action.
drama,
And
suspense.
all 3 movies have some connection to the movie we did 2 weeks ago. This is Spinal Tap. And we were talking in the pre-show, and this is Mike, this is news to you, that
It is.
there is a connection to Spinal Tap in every single one of these movies. One of them is pretty big. He can almost be the same character, just further along in his career.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning about that. I do want to touch up on actually 2 things I want to touch up on with you, Ben. I want to go back to our talk on eBay last week.
okay.
Because I had mentioned that seller was going to return on Friday and look for the pieces. I went until today, and I'm like, if I don't get an answer Sunday, I'm going to be that annoying buyer, and I'm going to pop them up and saying, hey, what's the deal with this? However, I did get a message from him today. He's located all the pieces except for one. And the one he cannot locate is so massively insignificant in relation with the others. But his attitude was, I can send you what I got. You could send it all back for a full refund, or we could work something out for just like one little piece that I'll probably never use. And I'm like, just send me what you have. We'll call it that. I'm totally fine with that because I know this piece isn't really all that necessary. But I'm a lot more satisfied now that he's even willing to, even with this insignificant piece, willing to even go towards something like a refund or working through this even further.
Yeah.
So that's a sign of a good seller.
No, that is. That's somebody who wants to go the extra mile to keep this sold.
Yes, exactly. Get it back.
Yep. That's like,
So
they go like before you sign the paper at the car dealership. It's like whatever you need to do to get this car out, sell it today. So
so far all is well that ends well. We'll just have to wait for everything to come in the mail and just, of course, re-inventory it. But that should be pretty easy to do. And I'm a lot less worried. So that's the first thing I want to discuss with you. The other thing is, that I went to the concert on Tuesday.
Oh, you want to go see Beanie, huh?
Yes. And so Okay, so some really cool things happened. Um, we went out to San Francisco. Matt drove all the way, so Matt was really awesome about that. He wanted to try a guitar. Now, I don't know if you know what a guitar is, but you'd know it if you saw it. So if you think of a mariachi band, there is the one guy that's playing that instrument that kind of looks like a guitar or a bass with a super big body and a little neck.
Super big body and a little neck.
Yeah. So like if you're familiar with the Naked Gun movie where they dress up as mariachis.
Yep.
I think it was his name Ed, the partner of Frank. If you remember that scene, he was playing guitar on. Or I mean, you could just Google a guitar on right now, and you'll know what it is. It's guitar, and then with Ron at the end of it. Um, so Matt wanted to try this instrument. So I searched all around for a store that would have one, and located a place there. And Matt was kind of like, "Oh no, it's just kind of a random idea. We don't have to do all this." I'm like, "Matt, you don't want to see this group, really. You're going just to hang out. So I want to do something that's going to be an experience for you. That's going to make this drive definitely worth it for you. Something new that you never done and you probably would never do unless we did it right now." So we ended up going to this music store and he actually got to try it. And he was just digging playing it. Now, the instrument's like a grand, so he wasn't gonna buy it just then. He wanted to give it a go. But it was a really cool store that we went in. It was a store called Harrods, I believe, Heriz. I'm gonna go ahead and Google them, just in case anyone does listen, musicians listen from San Francisco. So they could check out the store. Yeah, it's called Harrods Music. Uh, actually, Harrods Music and Art is the name of it. And they have a lot of interesting instruments there. So let me see if I can. For anyone, they're on at 210 California Drive in Burlingame. So if you're in that area and you're looking for some interesting instruments, that's a place I recommend going into. That's the couple that runs is really awesome. Uh, but we got a chance to he got a chance to play that. Then we saw another like instrument that had this really interesting scale to it, but it's one of those that we really can't touch it because it was like an expensive instrument. There was a sitar that was in a glass case that was really interesting to see because way back in the day I was interested in getting a sitar. And then they had balalaikas, and I was always curious about trying a balalaika. Um, so I got to take one off the wall, and Matt was playing the guitar on, I was playing the balalaika, and man, it was just a crazy awesome experience. So we did that, and then we went to the concert. We got there early. Um, I actually hung out with some of the people that are passing out, like, the free merch stuff, like cards and banners and things like that, and got in line. And, at one point, people came out with a camera basically saying, "Say welcome to San Francisco, Beanie." So we realized, this is gonna be shown to the group. And I was like on the outside of the line against the barricade. So, and they walked right down the barricade. So they walked right in front of me. It turns out now I'm in one of their videos on their main YouTube and Facebook page. I mean, you can't miss me.
That's
I
awesome.
I slowly like stand out, which is good because I mean I'm working on the Beanie version chorus, so hopefully they'll see my image and be like, "Oh, I remember this guy from the San Francisco concert." Um, but we were kind of far away from the stage. We were up in the second balcony, the third row in the second balcony. So it was hard. It's like watching kind of like ants perform. The cameraman wasn't really doing a great job on keeping with who was doing what at the concert. So I was just kind of watching the little versions of them. Uh, Now we're like I mentioned, we're at in the third row at the start of the second balcony. Now the way this lays out is there's only 2 floors to it. So the first balcony kind of goes down, whereas the second balcony goes up. And in the middle of them is a walkway. So I'm 3 rows from the walkway. Okay.
Mhm.
They get to their last song and only 4 of them are on stage. So half the group is on stage. All of a sudden, there is this massive screaming coming from the left side of the auditorium. And we all look over. 4 of the members are walking that walkway on the balcony. So, I got up and stood up and I kind of got out of the row so I could see better. 2 of the 4 members, it was my favorite member and my third favorite member. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what's unreal about this is the fact that there's a massive ocean. In reality, there's a massive ocean between me and them and seeing them. But at this moment right now, they're 10 feet away from me.
Mhm.
And the next morning I went and I watched one of their videos, and it was totally different seeing them because at this point they're more of a reality or real people than just something on screen.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different experience, and like seeing them up close, totally different experience. So it was an amazing show. And I'm weird. Like when it comes to movies and concerts, even though I'm into it, I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm spent on energy. So I hope this is gonna wrap up soon, even though I paid,
Oh, you're not weird. You're not weird at all. You're like
I did not feel that at all at that concert.
there's people who go and then they'll spend like hundreds of dollars to go to like a baseball game and they'll leave in the 7th inning even if it's a good game because they're just not.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're not weird at all.
Yeah. But for this concert, I didn't feel that at all. I was sitting there going, I want more. I really want more. So I absolutely love the experience.
That's good.
So,
That's awesome. I'm glad you had a good time.
yeah, and I'm hoping that they do a world tour again next year. Next year, I'm going to go more
Oh,
with the
shoot.
exclusive member so I can get the VIP.
You want the VIP treatment? I don't blame you.
I want what I really wanted that I missed was that with the VIP, you get to go to the sound check. And
Oh,
I
that
would have, just being a musician, I would have loved to see the sound check.
yeah.
So that I missed, but next time if they offer it, I'm doing it.
Sounds good. And I'm sure they'll come again if they have if this is a very successful tour for them. They'll definitely come
It
back.
Yeah, they're pretty much packing every single show. So I'd imagine they're gonna do it again.
Yeah, those acts they always do well because they don't do a ton of dates, but they do enough dates where they can hit the right parts of the country. They know where the people live,
Yeah, exactly.
where they're popular. They know it. I can go on YouTube right now and see where we're popular right now. The statistics are there for even people who have hundreds of subscribers. They have what thousands, maybe a million. I don't know how many subscribers they have, but
I think a couple million. But I mean, these kind of acts like this know, what the mindset of the person is going to be because my mindset was also verified by somebody else who made the comment that this is probably the only chance we'll really get to see them
yeah,
because of the fact that they're so far away. And even if I were to go to the Philippines or if I were to go to Japan to see Bandmate, the probability of me actually even going first at the right time to where there's a concert available, and then also being able to get tickets the way that they're purchased in both those countries, I have a better chance seeing them here and getting lucky and having them come here than I would going out to that country, and that's their home.
mm,
Now, I will say I did see Bandmade back in 2017 in Nagoya. And that's because I had a friend who was able to get in to purchase tickets.
yeah.
Which just luckily purchased tickets.
The only time I saw a show when I was, like, in Korea was, I got, Simply K-pop.
Uh-huh.
I was able to get into not 1, not 2, but 3 tapings.
Mhm.
And I recommend if you're in Seoul and you're a K-pop fan, try to get I don't know if the show's still on the air, honestly, 'cause I'm so out of the loop, but
Mhm.
if it's still around, you go to Arirang's website, and they have a link where you can go and sign up for tapings of Simply K-pop. They're done, like, 3 days a week, I think, and for somebody who does production, it's interesting to watch it because even though I don't speak Korean, I knew who everybody I knew, like, just by how they were acting, I knew all their positions,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh, that's the floor director, that's cool,"
Yeah.
and the camera people, and you get and the floor director, she was like it was this tiny little woman, but she was like the boss.
Mhm.
It's like, "Clean this up. Okay, camera guy, you go over here." Like, I don't know if that's exactly what you were saying, but, like, just from how everybody was acting, I kinda figured that's what you were saying because like, they had a thing where, one of the acts had glitter,
Uh-huh.
and they did 6 retakes,
Uh-huh.
and they had to clean up all the glitter, set it all up again. Somebody didn't like it, so they had to go and to clean up all the glitter, set it all up again, over and over and over again. And so, like, what a floor director does is the floor director literally just like the person is there who tells everybody really what to do, but they're not the one who are like they're not running the vision. They're
Uh-huh.
not the
Yeah.
vision director. The vision director is the person who's sitting up in the booth, who's calling all. That's the person who's calling all the shots.
Mhm.
And so the person up in the booth must not must not like the first 5 takes or whatever. The audience,
Uh-huh.
they were getting fatigued because it's the same song
Yes.
again and again and again. So you're sitting there for 3 hours recording a 1-hour program, and I signed up for 3 tapings that all took place on the same day. I literally had the same seat for all 3 tapings because I knew where to go in the lineup to get to what seat I wanted,
Yeah.
and I am trying to remember what all the acts were, but they were like Simply K-pop is one of those places you're on your way up or you're on your way down.
Mhm.
You're not like the top acts don't go to Simply K-pop.
Yeah.
The guys who were the top acts either last year or are going to be the top acts in a couple months, they're the ones who go to Simply K-pop.
Mhm.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, but it was still a good time, and,
Yeah.
uh, Arium's an English speaking station, so, any of the acts who do speak English, they speak English to you. They have an English tour guide English speaking tour guide who, takes you around, um, and the hosts both hosts, they speak English, and when there's downtime, they're talking to you. They want you excited. They want you full of energy. So if they
Yeah.
see that the crowd is starting to die, they might send out one of the acts who got a big applause earlier. They might send them back out just to go and say, "Hey guys," and just shake hands and take pictures and that type of shit. They're very personable, very that's the one thing with with up and coming K-pop acts, also with any of these acts, is the fan service. I mean, you were just
Mhm.
describing your level of fan service, where you're 10 feet away from them.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
never gonna look at them again the same, in a
Yeah.
good way, in a good way.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's yeah, and you get that level, and it's nice, and it's just you're in a studio audience, it doesn't cost you anything, you might be on international television. I got into one shot because I kept looking at the camera, which they really don't want you to do, but it's just a habit of mine to look at the camera, and
Mhm. Just as long as you're not, like, being seductive into the camera.
I had thought about but yeah, it's TV shows, if you can get into, like, recordings of any TV show, it's always fun to do. I was on, so I'm into One Shot and Simply K-pop, and then if you look through AEW Dynamite, I'm in one scene where I'm singing along to Chris Jericho's entrance music, and then one of the recordings, I actually got a ticket where I was on camera for pretty much the entire night, and that was the night that CM Punk came out with a bag, and in the bag was was his his world heavyweight championship, and he just like sprayed like an X over it or whatever. This was when they were trying to do 2 world championships in AEW because he he didn't get along with the Bucks.
Mm.
If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't worry about it. It's all behind the scenes nonsense at AEW wrestling.
Yeah.
There's a reason that company is in second place, and it has a lot to do with letting the inmates run the asylum.
Mm.
You got your biggest star, and you chase him away, and all he does is go to the WWE and make even more money.
That sounds like the King. What was his name? Jeremiah King?
King Jeremiah?
King who was it now from Ready to Rumble?
Oh, I think you're going biblical. I'm like King Jeremiah. I don't remember that. Okay, so that would be Jimmy King.
Jimmy King, that's who it was. Yeah.
Jimmy King, yes, Ready to Rumble. Ugh.
But we got some movies to talk about. Let's talk about some movies. But that's
You got some movies to talk about. So what's the order we're doing this in? Are we doing UHF?
we are
doing
doing
Truman Show?
first.
Okay. So let me drink a little bit of water. I got like a frog in my throat. I've been fighting this thing for a couple weeks. I've got
That's
six
the
more.
first thing
I got
frog
6
in
more
your
to
throat.
calendar year. What's that?
I thought that was an interesting saying, frog in your throat. Like at what point does somebody actually literally have a frog in their throat to justify that saying?
That'd be a good thing to look up to find out where it originated. Because all these sayings, there's a reason for them.
Yeah.
And just like there's a reason to do this movie, UHF is a 1989 American comedy film directed by Jay Levy and co-written by Levy and Weird Al Yankovic, who also stars in the lead role. The film follows George Newman, a quirky and imaginative daydreamer who unexpectedly inherits a failing UHF television station armed with zero experience but unlimited creativity. George fills the channel with absurd, offbeat programming like Wheel of Fish and Conan the Librarian that somehow turns the station into a surprise local hit. A satire of low-budget television and 1980s pop culture, UHF flopped at the box office upon release, but since then has developed a devoted cult following thanks to its zany humor and Yankovic's signature style. This movie, I literally just finished rewatching it before we went on the air, and I'm going first, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, before I continue. And this is a good movie. It is. It's not Emmy award winning. It really is a cult type of movie where if you like this type of satire, if you like Weird Al and grew up listening to his music, or maybe you still do, if you haven't seen UHF, this is it's definitely his movie. There's some great parodies in it. It starts off in the beginning of the movie, it starts off with a parody of Indiana Jones. And then later there's a great parody for Rambo. Then there's the fake movies like Gandhi 2. Um, we talked about this movie. Actually, the last time we talked about this film was last year when we did the review for Stay Tuned.
Mhm.
Talking about how Stay Tuned reminded us a lot of UHF. And
Yeah.
it is, except for it all being satanical, stuff. This one is just stupid ideas for TV shows. So, like Wheel of Fish, the one I mentioned.
Town Talk.
Yeah, Down Talk.
Which actually, if you now mention it, that is satanical because he does have Satan on one of the episodes of Town Talk.
Oh, okay. There you go. And since I was teasing it in the beginning, here is your connection to This Is Spinal Tap. Fran Drescher is in this movie. She played the publicist. I forget the publicist's name, but she played the publicist in This Is Spinal Tap. So that is because all 3 movies this week, and I didn't plan this. This wasn't planned, but they all have a connection back to This Is Spinal Tap. And for fun, I'm going to point it out.
Yeah. Right when you said her name, I realized, yep, you're right. There is a connection. I didn't even see that one.
Yep. There's also a Sopranos connection because they have Richie Aprile from The Sopranos is one of the the leader of the gangster guys who kidnapped Michael Richards' character Stanley Stapowski or whatever.
Spadowski.
What is it?
Spadowski.
Spadowski, Stanley Spadowski.
Yes.
He did really well in this movie
Mm-hmm.
because, like, but it's like because he still hasn't gotten past all his stuff that happened at that nightclub that one night because
Yeah.
I still think of it when I watch it.
Yeah. Sure.
But like, yeah, he's really good in this. He's really good when he playing these zany, over the top characters like like Stanley here, or playing Cosmo Kramer. He just like he needs to always if he just I don't know how his career could do nowadays, but if he would have just stayed taking these zany roles.
Well, he kind of typecast himself with the goofy, shocked face expression.
Yeah. So yeah, he might be stuck with that. But yeah, it's trying to think of other scenes from the movie because
Well, another person we're going to talk about a lot later also has typecast their self into always having to be goofy.
yeah,
I think you know who I'm talking about by that.
I most certainly do. Somebody stop me. All right, Mike, go ahead.
Okay, so UHF. What I'm going to say is I'm not going to say it's a bad movie because it's a wonderful movie. I think it has a problem in that it's not aging as well, and there's a couple reasons why it's not aging well. One, I think the humor is not aging well. Um, the Weird Al Yankovic style is not aging well. The other problem it's going to run into is the references. Whenever you have one of these parody movies, they kind of have a shelf life because once you get to the point where your new audience isn't aware of what you're really parodying or isn't familiar enough with what you're really parodying, then it becomes just a wasted opportunity at a scene.
Well,
There
that's what's wrong with the whole scary movie franchise.
exactly, and that's coming back to bite UHF. Even me watching it again, I watched it last week to get ready for tonight. I was sitting there thinking, this is a movie that I loved, not necessarily just like loved as a kid or whatever. This is a movie that I still loved up to this time, but I'm seeing everything wearing thin because of it not aging like it should.
Mm.
Um, I still think I want to after saying that, I still think it's the level of a great movie, but I fear like in 10 years, if I put it on, at what point will it be then? I mean, what sort of relevance then will it have that it hit me with before? Um, and some of it is also because of Weird Al himself. Now, I like Weird Al. I like the stuff that Weird Al does, but there's also that level of annoyance. An example of this was then when he they got fired, and he told his friend, he's like, just bash my head in, and back then it's something that was tolerable, but now it becomes kind of like nails on chalkboard to me. So that's really affecting me to where it's dropping the movie down. But there is one actor that really, really needs to be pointed out because this actor's role is so flawless that they make the movie exceptionally well, much more so than anyone else. And it's not Weird Al, and it's not I can't think of Michael, what is the name of the Kramer guy?
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards, not Michael Richards. It's not Grand Drescher either. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, who plays the role of R.J. Fletcher.
Yeah.
He really, he is so exceptional in this role. I mean, he pulls off the evil, conniving douchebag character with the flip side, where he's got that grin that is just his brain is just concocting something. And it's that he himself saves this whole movie. Whereas a movie with Weird Al starting to age poorly, his role doesn't at all. So he really needs to be commended for what he did in this movie because it was an amazing job.
Yeah, no, he definitely made the movie work, which he needed to because his character had to work in order for the story to make sense.
Yeah, and his
You're
character
just imagine he went up there and he's supposed to entertain the kids, and it just came off like he was a lump on a log. We're like, how is he? How is the character becoming like successful? I don't even want to watch him. He's like,
and as an actor, you gotta think about how difficult that role is going to be. Just that one part where, um, they're talking about the missing report, and he goes over this dynamics of being the hard boss to being the jerk screaming, being the person that fires the guy, finding the report, and then just being like, "Oh, ha ha, here it is. I don't care about what just happened. Everything's resolved."
yeah.
That's not an easy transition to do, and he does it so well.
There's a few things in these movies where it kind of pushes the believability scale.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not an expert on employment law, but I know enough where you can't just go and, like, fire somebody like that. You need probable cause, you need, like, there's all this stuff you need. I don't care how stupid the guy is.
I love how you said that the level of believability and mentioned that rather than saying the part where Weird Al goes, "Hey, RJ," and everyone just goes quiet and even the phone stopped ringing.
Ah. The phone's got scared. That yeah, that well, in this movie, especially UHF, is the most unbelievable of the 3 that we watched with the stuff over the top stuff, like, also, like, I don't think there is a channel 62.
There could be somewhere there could be.
I'm not even sure where it's stopped. I know we have a channel 61 in Connecticut, but I think 61 is the top. I think you can't go any
Mm.
higher than that. And now I gotta go let me go look that up.
Well, I mean, with, like, cable and stuff now, they've got, like, 999 channels, so somebody is on U62.
Let's see here.
If they are, they've got fun with dirt on.
Highest UHF station. Right now it's channel 51.
Oh, okay. I guess
Oh, okay. Okay, but that's because they lowered it, but it used to be 83,
okay.
I think. Oh, it was removed in 1983. Currently the highest station is channel 51, but this movie came out in 1989. So let's look up 1989. 1989. Channel 69. So there could have been only channel 62. Okay.
Now, a couple things I wanna mention that are interesting. One is I really wish that they did have a spinoff that did do Conan the Librarian as a movie. I think that would have worked. Like, if Weird Al were to do Conan the Librarian as a movie, he could have made that work. The other thing is, and I don't know if you caught this, but I get this vibe, and I don't think it was, like, something that's meant to be intentional. It just happened to fall into place perfectly. The character of Big Louie,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, does the character Big Louie remind you of anyone at all?
Um, well, Dr. Claw.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I didn't know yeah, that's where you were going or not, but yeah, Dr. Claw. I mean, that's been redone millions of times now. I don't know if Dr. Claw was the originator, but
I'm curious who the originator would have been. I'm sure it's probably something back, like, in the some 50s spy
if
movie
I
show.
remember correctly, I think Dr. Claw was kind of a takeoff of the Bond movies.
Oh, is the
Blofeld in the Bond movies. You don't see his face until like he's his third or fourth appearance.
which one is this?
Blofeld, he's the top guy from Spectre. You think he's introduced in the third Bond movie,
Okay.
which is, and but he's not shown until like the third until he's like the fourth or fifth movie they finally show him
Okay.
where he got the bald face and the scar on his under his eye.
Mhm.
But they used to show him just with a cat. literally holding a cat and nothing more is how he was shown in, I think, in Thunderball. That's what it was, Thunderball. In the movie Thunderball, they show him holding a cat, and he is the basis for Dr. Claw, who is the basis for Big Lou.
Okay.
So it goes back to James Bond. So
Did Big Lou or Big Louie, did he have a cat as well?
no, but the fact that you can't see him and you only see his hand, because that's a takeoff of Dr. Claw, because Dr. Claw had the claw, but Dr. Claw had the cat, and the cat is what ties that back to Blofeld.
Yeah.
Because Blofeld didn't have Blofeld had a scar on his face, but he didn't have he had his hands.
Okay, so that at least makes me feel a little bit more relieved that I wasn't the only one that kind of picked up that vibe.
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure if that's what you were going with, or if you had like some other reference that would have been another one, because like it's been done a few times. This isn't,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
unique.
So that's all I have to say, really. So I think we kind of know where we're going with this. What do you have? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, I still give this a thumbs up.
Yeah, I definitely give it still a thumbs up. But I think that the younger you are, the more cautious you have to be watching this, because there's probably a lot of it you're not going to understand. I think there's going to be enough to where you'll get through the movie, but when you get into the references, like Rambo, everybody knows Rambo. Everyone probably knows Rambo for a long time.
There's a great joke in it, but depending if you get how sensitive you are to people making fun of Asian people with the way they said, sometimes they screw up R's and L's.
I know what you're talking about.
Supplies.
Yep.
And it's one of the, I think it's like one of my favorite jokes in the whole movie. But like, yeah, so it's in today's world, I don't even know if they would even let a movie have that.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
I'm wondering if there was the reference on Wheel of Fish was like meant to be a sexual reference. Because when I was in a group, we had a song called Red Snapper. Now I don't know if that's really a sexual reference, but it was treated as such in the song that we wrote. And it goes back to the fact that he was, oh, red snapper, very tasty. Is that really a reference, like a reference to the female anatomy?
Probably not, because Weird Al wasn't really big on that type of stuff. Like, even the love story that they had in the movie seemed like it was kind of forced, like he was told he needs to have a love story in it. Because he probably would have actually liked doing the movie without having to have a love story, but
Huh.
so yeah, everything it just, yeah, I don't, it doesn't, it's not in character with how he normally does stuff. He's normally like kind of safe in a way. Like, if you don't want your kids around like sexually charged stuff, you could play a Weird Al album, and you probably won't find any of it on there. Or if you do, it's him being a psychopath, so he's just making a joke out of it.
Okay, so here you go. Urban Dictionary tells us a red snapper is a term for a nymphomaniac, a woman who loves sex so much that her C word is almost always red and swollen. Here you go on another sexlexis.com it does say it's a female anatomy.
So
I won't go on any further, but there you go.
you single men out there, go look for a red snapper.
Exactly. Go to your fish market and pick up as many red snappers as you can eat.
Okay, so are we're done with this movie?
We are done with UHF.
Okay.
This is gonna be a weird transition. Oh, this is such gonna be a weird transition now after what we just talked about. Go ahead, NTV.
I'm gonna do the rundown, and then you're gonna do the first review. So when I do the first rundown, I'm gonna run to the bathroom while you're doing the review, because I have to kind of go really bad.
So
It's all that's water I had. What's that?
you're gonna miss what I talk about. Are you gonna turn the volume up loud enough to hear it?
I'll try to have it loud enough to hear it. I'm only gonna be like 30 seconds, but
Okay, you know what? Why don't I do the rundown then?
because I already have it
That
up.
way you can just do the bathroom trip while I'm doing the rundown of it. I assume that I think I know where I'm going to get it, and I've got it up in front of me.
Okay, I have just have Wikipedia just right. I literally said I need a Wikipedia like description for, and I listed all 3 movies. All right, you're gonna do the rundown. Go ahead.
I got the rundown. So you go do your runs, and I'll do the rundown.
Okay, I'll be right.
Okay. All right, people. This is the first time that I actually get to do the rundown.
No, you did it for one of the Japanese movies.
Oh, well, yeah, I did that because of the names, but I don't think I did the full rundown. And I'm sure, hopefully, you're already in the bathroom going at this point. So you're not hearing this, but yeah, people, I just did the names for it. He was doing the rundown, and I was just jumping in when he got to a name, and that's pretty much it. I think I don't think I did the full thing. So here we go. The rundown for Ed TV. Ed TV is a 1990 American satirical comedy film directed by Ron Howard. Oh, look, there's a connection right there. An adaptation of the Quebecios, plays from Quebec film Louis 19, King of the Airways, also known as Louis 19, Le Roi des Ondes. It stars Matthew McConaughey, Jenna Elfman, Woody Harrelson, Ellen DeGeneres, Martin Landau, Rob Reiner, Sally Kirkland, Elizabeth Hurley, Clint Howard, and Dennis Hopper. The movie received mixed to positive reviews, with some criticizing the similarity to The Truman Show, and it was a box office failure, grossing $35.2 million against an $80 million against an $80 million production budget. And I believe, let me double check something. Because I'm gonna,
80 million to make that movie.
yes. Oh, you're back now. So it looks like the connection was Ron Howard,
No.
Rob Reiner.
Well, Rob Reiner.
That's it. What Rob Reiner from Spinal Tap.
Rob Reiner, you got one of them. There's 2 in this one.
Oh, I don't know who the other one is.
Harry Shearer is the guy who one of the guys who was on that TV panel that kept talking about Ed TV.
Ah, okay.
Harry Shearer was Derek Smalls, the bass player on Spinal Tap.
Gotcha.
He's also one of the voices of many characters on The Simpsons.
Okay, gotcha. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Ed TV. This movie is a disaster. But it's interesting how it's a disaster. If I were to watch just the first part and have the movie run just like the first part runs, I would actually say that this is a very good movie. But it has this change to it. And I don't know, maybe it feels like it just gets old, or maybe, and after all that Red Snapper stuff we talked about, maybe it's just me that got old, because I'm not like, I'm not prude, I'm not like against this, but it felt like it was just, they did this transition to where it's like, where everything was about him getting laid. And maybe when I was in my 20s, I would have cared about that, but I don't now. And it feels like the last half of the movie, that's the only leg that stands on. I think that it starts out well with the fact that the cameras are in their face and how it affects people. And how, like, it can cause the relationships to crash and burn. But then it feels like when they push his interest out of the way halfway through it, it just becomes a mess of let's get Ed in bed. And this is also true when it starts out, because when they first have him on camera, they could have done so many different things, but they have him put his hand down his boxers. And that's kind of the signal for this is basically where the movie is going to go. It doesn't really focus on the aspect of the cameras on everybody. It tries to do that towards the end, but that's broken pretty quick. and it's broken with a really stupid, ha ha, once again, sex joke. And I think that made this movie just get super old to where I don't care about it.
Hmm.
So I don't have much else to say. Although I didn't realize Elizabeth Hurley was in it.
Yes, Elizabeth Hurley was in it. I took me I had to remember her name, like, I remembered Elizabeth, and I'm like, "Is it no, it's not Berkeley, uh, Hurley, that's I
Mhm.
really enjoyed Ed TV. I wasn't expecting to, I thought it took a little while to get going, but once the movie got going, I thought it was interesting in a lot of respects. I thought it kinda studied, in a way, what could happen if you were put in this position where, first of all, like, all his brother wants to do is to gain from this, and he wants to use it to start his own
Mm,
gym, and everything to do with Sherry and how he's completely head over heels for her, but the public thinks she's, unattractive, and they're trying to get him elsewhere, and the part you're talking about where, like, "Let's get him laid," that was more of a study, I thought, in of, like, what happens when you start believing your own hype because everybody's telling you, "Ed, you're great. He's on the Tonight Show. He's doing this. He's doing that. They're giving him free Pepsi." Because he mentioned Pepsi one time. I said, "Do you want Coke or Pepsi?" He said Pepsi. So all of a sudden now Pepsi brought a Pepsi machine that was a free Pepsi machine, and he had bags of chips behind them and all these letters that people are sending him. And you think to yourself, well, in that position, I wouldn't let it get to me. And you know what? The kind of character he was that kind of character. This shit ain't gonna get to me. And what happened? It got to him. It
yeah,
really got to him. And all of a sudden he started believing his own hype and believing his own hype, started believing that the girl of his dreams, this girl that he absolutely was head over heels for, wasn't good enough for him because the newspaper said it wasn't good enough for him. And of course, the newspaper that represents the public, and the public
mm,
knows what they're talking about, right? They always get it right. And at later in the movie, because he actually is a good guy, has the epiphany that, you know what? I don't want this. It's screwing up my whole family. They're screwing around with me. And he tries to pull out of the deal. And Rob Reiner, who really just made me think this is the same character that he played in Spinal Tap, but he had a really good career. And now he's the president of some network. Uh, goes and starts pulling the strings on him and telling him, like, "You signed a deal, and we are not only are we gonna go and follow you around, and you can't do anything about it." They later start following his entire family around.
mm.
Al is great. I love Al. He's the guy who's in the wheelchair with the oxygen.
Yeah, he was a good character.
He is the same guy who is I believe he's the same guy that is in Ready to Rumble who teaches them how to wrestle.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's the same guy. You gotta hint it is the same guy. I might be wrong on that, but if I'm right, it'll make the video. If I'm wrong, it won't make the video. Uh, I just really thought out of the 3 movies we watched and I watched today, and I watched them all before we went on the air, I thought Ed DV was the best one because of the way it handled the entire thing and how his character had a character arc. At the end of the movie, he's still the same guy, but he had an arc where he went into the dark side and then came back around in a way. Because that's what the whole thing with Elizabeth and Elizabeth Hurley's character. He walks in. Did you see all the pictures of herself that she had and how she always looks at the camera before she kisses him? Like, these are telltale signs that this is not the girl for him. And they did a really good job of, like, foreshadowing that. Everything that happened in the movie, I knew was gonna happen. I knew he was gonna end up back with Sherry. Just how is he gonna do it? And the blatant UPS, like, okay, so you can hold me over the coals because somebody didn't like what I had to go and say about Castaway, right? I think. Well, if not, then most people don't because a lot of people think Castaway is a really great movie, and I always complain that it's just a gigantic ad for FedEx. Like,
Mhm,
well, Ben, how come you're not saying that there's a gigantic ad for all these things that were in this movie? Because it's part of the premise of the movie that they're going to have these advertisements. So I wasn't upset about it because the whole movie is about television and television's ran on that. Um,
mhm.
so Yeah, I give thumbs up for EdTV. I thought EdTV was really a surprise hit for me. I thought that this movie was I thought it was gonna kind of feel like you do, where it's like, "Oh, it got too sexual," or "They got too." Yeah, it is a little bit, but that's also reflecting the time the movie came out.
Yeah, and I think that if this was reality, it would go the same way. And I get
Like,
that's because that's good.
oh, so like all of a sudden they had Mike TV and they're following you around. But people, and it's because people really like you. All of a sudden you're getting love letters and getting all kinds of stuff. And all of a sudden you might make some decisions that later on you're like, oh shit, why did I do that? I did that because this guy kept telling me how great I am
Yeah.
when I'm not. No, I mean, or you are. I like you, but you know what I mean? Like you fall into your own hype. You're never as good as everybody's telling you are when the hype train's there. What I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's funny because I always said that the job that I want in the future was to have somebody study me all day, like, and today, Mike woke up at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
and he ate some eggs, and he took a big dump afterwards, and get paid to do that, so I don't have to do, like, an actual, hard, difficult, annoying job, so watching EdTV just kind of reminded me of what I used to say in the past, but that's also in the past, and listening to what you're saying about it kind of makes me think I focused on one thing a little too much about it. Um, but I think that was a part that was so much in my face. Um,
Or like
but
in the beginning where he's like it's the morning and he reaches down into his pants. That's kind of yeah, I know it's a little sexual, but this is 1998,
yeah,
1999. This is when, like, so Howard Stern was the biggest thing on television and radio, all that shit. Like, there was a lot of sexual stuff going on. I mean, there still is, but, like, I mean, of course, I this is the time when I was exposed to all this stuff. So to me, this was huge. So him reaching down into his pants like that kind of is like he's a single guy
mm,
and without even thinking about it, he's gonna reach down and just like scratch his balls or whatever, and then he looks around and there's a camera crew, and he's like, "Oh shit, they'll I have to change this part of my morning routine." I don't think he was looking to jerk off or anything. It might have just legitimately like, okay, let me just straighten things out down there and start my day. Uh,
mm.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for the guy. But yeah, I took it as like that's him trying to look like, oh, that was so they could have the, "Oh shit, there's a camera here" moment.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I get that. It's just and I understand that sex sells and it's prominent in culture because it does sell. But to me, I've kind of grown past the interest in being bombarded with it
Mhm.
because I'm not some 20-year-old that thinks about it all day long.
You're not like one of those kids that where they were watching the kissing scene and they're like, "Yeah, come on. Yeah, Kim," or whatever her name, Jill. Was it Jill?
I think it was I thought it sounded like it was something like Jill.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh yeah, Jill, Jill. Oh, she's so hot." And like one of the kids is like licking the screen and I'm like,
Mhm,
I remember when I first saw a movie with her, she was in Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. And I'm like, she is hot.
mhm,
And she is. She's a very hot woman.
mhm.
How many movies have you seen her in since? You know, it's yeah. She's the hottest woman in the movie, which tells me that this movie was not really trying to push sex a hell of a lot.
Mhm.
The whole thing, like, did you think Jenna Elfman was attractive in this?
She was the main interest.
That was Sherry, yeah.
Yeah, she was okay.
Yeah, I figured she's like she looks like the kind of girl that is like you would actually know in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like pretty for people you know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think they were a little rough on her with like, you know, saying all that stuff and like even like the stuff with the Tonight Show and getting the stuff from the hockey stuff. Probably the easiest stuff for them to record was him at the hockey arena because they literally could just go and say, "Hey, everybody, Matthew McConaughey is operating the Zamboni. Everybody say, give a lot of applause for Matthew McConaughey." And then later on, he just pipe in the whole thing where it says, "Oh, TV guys here," you know.
Yeah.
That's easy. Having him do the Tonight Show. Matthew McConaughey goes on the Tonight Show. I've seen this done. They'll actually do it on the show sometimes if they have permission from the movie or not. And they'll go and say, "Hey guys, he's doing a movie called Ed TV. He's going to be coming back out here as Ed, and we're gonna do another we're gonna do a fake interview where he's Ed. Guys, you're gonna be part of the movie. You don't get, like, they'll make a joke like you're not gonna get paid, unfortunately, but you get to be forever. Your laughter and your cheers will be part of this movie. Help us out." And most people, they do it. No one's gonna go and say, "Oh no, fuck this. I don't want to be in the movie." Everybody's gonna do it. I've seen it happen a few times. So that's what they're gonna like. It's like when I was talking about going to Simply K-pop, and they said, "Hey, we need to re-record." It's the same thing. You just say, "Okay, I will pretend this is my first time seeing it."
Yeah. So you gave it a thumbs up, right?
I did give it TV a thumbs up, yes.
Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna do something interesting. Um, because I think a lot of what you said, I didn't look at it that way. And I think a lot of what I said is more specific to me than it is to the general, person who would watch a movie like this. So instead of giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I'm not gonna give it a thumb. I'm not gonna go any direction. I'm basically gonna say that I'm going to be indifferent on this one,
So you're gonna
because
give a mediocre thumb?
I'm not even I'm not even gonna do a mediocre thumb. I'm gonna leave my thumb completely out of this one, but that sounds really weird. Um, and just say it's more up to you. If you're on the feelings that I'm feeling, then you're probably going to end up how I felt. If not, you're probably going to enjoy the movie. So, so basically, we're gonna stick with this movie. Got one thumbs up.
Okay.
So
So that was Ed TV, and that leads us up to The Truman Show.
yes,
The Truman Show is a 1998 American satirical science fiction psychological drama directed by Peter Weir and written by Andrew Nichol. Jim Carrey stars as Truman Burbank, an ordinary man who slowly comes to a horrifying realization that his entire life has been a broadcast as a global reality television show. Unbeknownst to him, every friend, every coworker, and even his wife is an actor, and his idyllic town is an elaborate set. As Truman begins to question the world around him, he edges closer to uncovering the truth. Critically acclaimed for its President, oh, pretty acclaimed for his commentary on media, free will, and personal identity. The Truman Show marked a turning point in Jim Carrey's career, showcasing his dramatic chops and earning him multiple Oscar nominations. I've been vocal about this movie in past episodes. This is one of my favorite films, but more about the premise than the way the film was actually done. One of the things you can look into this movie is there's so many angles that you could look at this movie on. Because they threw a lot into this movie to make it as believable as possible with, um, like, for Truman, like the fact that he listens to classical music. That's
mhm,
literally just because classical music doesn't have, a lot of it's not copyrighted.
okay,
So, also why he says good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's because the show is shown 24 hours a day throughout the world. And sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's evening, and sometimes it's night.
Eh,
If you go and look at like all the just what they did in writing this, they put a lot of time into a 90-minute film. What is my number one complaint about films, Mike? When I
too
have
long.
a bad thing to say, they're too long. Exactly. This movie wasn't long enough.
Yeah,
There's so much more they could have done with this. And I would love to see maybe the deleted scenes or something, or if somebody has like a fan cut where it's thrown back in. Oh, before I forget, Harry Shearer is also in this movie, and he plays pretty much the same role he does in Ed TV, where he's a TV host. He does the interview towards the end of the movie where he's talking to the creator of the Truman Show. Once again, Harry Shearer, Derek Smalls, and this is Spinal Tap, and the voice of Reverend Lovejoy and Principal Skinner and many others on The Simpsons.
got it. Okay.
And yeah, just before I forget, the movies would have been a great television show. I've talked about this in the past. Not an actual show where they go and take a baby and not that. A scripted television show where there's a Truman Burbank and he goes through seasons where every season is one of the things that happen in this movie happens, and then the rest of the like, it's a TV. Write something, 8 episodes, put it on HBO. It doesn't have to be super long. I'm not talking about a 22 episode thing.
Mm.
Um, there must have been somebody behind the scenes working against the show. Look at all the stuff that goes wrong right in a row. Come on. You're telling me this is a 30-year-old program. They mentioned that this is the 30th year, meaning his character has turned 30, and all of a sudden a light falls in his vicinity on also then the thing with the rain where it only rains on him, the radio going crazy and him being able to hear all the stage directions. I'm like, there's no way all 3 things happen, like, within a span of 2 days.
Don't forget going in the building and seeing behind the elevator.
Came behind well, that was different because he changed his routine, and that
Yeah.
screwed everything up. That was different. But all the other things are stuff that was during his routine and stuff that should not have gone wrong. It's supposed to be one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that was been if you would have added 30 minutes to the movie, you could have added that maybe somebody behind the scenes was causing all this stuff to happen.
Mm.
Because otherwise, it's a little unbelievable. A ship that ran well for 30 years is all of a sudden having all these problems in a row. Come on. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So that would have been nice if it would have been established that maybe it could have been Sylvia. It could have been one of the guys in the cast or in the crew who secretly is part of the resistance against the Truman Show. They hinted that there's a whole resistance movement trying to get Truman out of the show. This is all stuff that can make the Truman Show into a series.
Mhm.
Why this show has not happened yet is totally beyond me. This is a hit. You can get 3 seasons at least out of this.
Mhm.
Eventually, the dude has to figure it out, but you can just but that's good writing. You have good writings and good writing, good actors, and you make it that somehow they're able to convince him every single time that this is just how it is. Because you also gotta remember, he grew up in this entire thing. It's all he's ever known. He's never known the outside world. So to him, he's completely brainwashed because he's been living in the thing.
Mhm.
They could have made mention of, oh, when his best friend went away, all of a sudden he came back and he seemed to look a little different. Meaning that maybe at one point they changed the actor.
Yeah.
Little shit like that would have been so cool. And they made the movie 90 minutes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I love this premise. Make it longer.
Mhm.
This is why I like the Joe Schmo show. I love this whole thing of like one guy doesn't know.
Mhm.
I just love it.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, go ahead, Mike. What do you got to say about the Truman Show?
Okay. And I'm glad that I actually let you go first on this one because there's things I want to talk about that you mentioned. But the first thing I want to say is if you ever want to put a death sentence on your movie, make sure that the first actor's name that appears is Jim Carrey. I think I've
What you saying? I think that Jim Carrey is more annoying than
are you Adam Sandler now?
trying to.
Okay. So uh, I think I've mentioned my disdain for Jim Carrey in the past. However, there are movies where Jim Carrey gets a pass because of the way he does his role.
Yeah.
Truman Show is one of those because there isn't that level of Jim Carrey stupidity that he is like his in his normally in his contract that he has to do. Um, he gets a pass on Sonic, but he does. I do recognize he has a "I need to be Jim Carrey" scene where he's doing his stupid Jim Carrey dance in his bass, and that ruins that movie.
Hmm.
But the Truman Show, he's actually doing a serious role, and it's a total 180.
Hmm.
Um, it is not Jim Carrey, and it makes me wonder if Jim Carrey was actually the actor that they originally wanted for this role, or if it's somebody else, and they didn't get that person. They just kind of settled on Jim Carrey.
Oh,
Uh,
also it could have been they had somebody else in mind, and Jim Carrey heard about it, and his star power was big enough where he picked up the phone and said, "I want this movie," and they just like, well, it's Jim Carrey, I guess.
yeah, that's possible as well too. Now, with that being said, this movie is phenomenal. This is what I would say is an absolute must see no matter what. And this movie does what I wish EdTV did in its theme in a way, because it's more of a wholesome movie. It's more of a family movie. Whereas, EdTV, I was mentioning, is going to has its themes that you're not going to sit there with your 8-year-old and watch EdTV really, unless you don't really care. But the Truman Show works for that.
Yeah. No, it's more family friendly, definitely.
Absolutely. And to
But
counter what you
that has a lot to do with the setting too, because the setting of the Truman Show is it's the 50s. The 50s never went away. Even the way the way his wife dressed.
yeah,
Everything was more like the 50s have never gone away. It's always the 50s here.
yes. And to counter what you said with the light falling, with the rain, with the frequency, now the frequency is a little hard to pull off, but everything else can be explained that this is his cage. And he's never been outside of this cage, so he doesn't know any better, especially with the rain. They control the weather. So it's completely plausible to him that the rain can fall on him and then he can move and the rain can move with him and fall on him again. Because he's never seen actual rain and nobody within the space, what's the word I'm looking for? The controlled space is going to tell him otherwise.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. Now that you mentioned it, I'm reminded was thinking about that when I was watching the movie of like, why does he know how the rain's supposed to act unless they've always had it work the way it's supposed to, and this is literally the first time they've screwed up.
Yeah. And I mean, this is reality to him.
Yeah.
It's TV to us, but it's reality to him. So
Also, like, how does he know it's weird that his wife all of a sudden starts promoting the cocoa bean?
yeah,
She's always been promoting stuff like that.
yeah.
Why do you think it's weird? Your wife just talks like that. That's how people are, you know?
And we don't know if that it happened before either. I mean, he could have been 28 and the same thing happened. It's like, who are you talking to? And she could have found a way to pull it off or have them talk in her ear to tell her what to say to pull that off.
And these are all reasons why this should be a TV series versus being a movie. Picture
Sure. Yes.
you could spend more time exploring all this. How does he put it together? Does he have a secret diary somewhere where he's keeping track of all the stuff that he finds? That could be part of it. Um, People working on the outside, like Sylvia's character could have been widely expanded, where she's like the leader of a resistance group that's against the Truman Show, and maybe they protest outside the studios every day, or they have somebody working on the inside. Maybe there could be a season where the person on the inside almost gets Truman the find out the truth, and then the TV people stop him at the last minute. Stuff like this.
Yeah.
There's a whole series you could build on the Truman Show, and why the boat has not been set loose.
Well, they did that. They showed them the times that people had broken in, like the guy that parachutes down.
Well, that too, but I was talking about, like, they could have been, like, there's, a I'm thinking on the outside, there's a resistance group because they don't show what happens when he leaves. When he leaves, that could be the end of the series too, where he leaves and there's an episode, the final episode, where he meets up with Sylvia and they have a reunion and he meets the group of people who have been, like, supporting his release for all these years, and he finds out what the real world is like. And then if they wanna do even another season or a couple episodes where he's out and about and trying to learn how to use a credit card and how to, do stuff he's never done before.
Yes. This movie screams a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
This movie definitely does. The way that it ends, this movie screams a sequel to where he now goes out into reality and now he has to make a real decision whether he wants to stay in reality or go back into the TV show. And that would have been a Truman Show 2 for that would have been amazing just to
Yeah.
find out how it ends. So and on that note, I do want to mention, just like in UHF, the Truman Show has an actor that is such a phenomenal actor in their role. That's not the main character. It's Ed Harris who plays the role of Christoph.
Yes.
He what he does in this, it's kind of like RJ Fletcher's role, but on a more godly level because he finds
Up the creator after all.
yeah, and when you get to that ending, you're watching him like slamming the weather against Truman in the water, knowing that Truman can't swim.
Yep.
They made it so he can't swim, so they can't get off this island. Um, and you're like sitting there going, and everyone's WNBC says you're gonna kill him. I always gotta do that for that guy.
Oh, Giovanni.
Yes, and you're sitting there going, this is really evil what he's doing,
Yeah.
but what's his next option?
That was one of the things that it really showed off in the Truman Show. Watching this again, especially after how Rod Reiner character was on Ed TV, and now watching the Truman Show, these people are insanely cruel.
Yes,
This is one of the cruelest things you could ever do to a human being. I think is to have it where their entire reality is fake.
yeah,
It really is in a way, and even when they do it in the Joe Schmo show, that's kinda cruel in a way too, but at least he didn't grow up his whole life that way, and it's only for a couple weeks, and there's a prize. Here, what's his prize? Other than the fact, like, the woman who played his wife, she's a good-looking woman, and they were setting him up with good-looking women, and he had a place to live, and they fed him, and all the other shit in life, but
mm,
what does he have to show for it once he goes out that door?
yeah. Well, everybody's gonna know him, so he's gonna be instant celebrity. And
For a while, for the
how is he gonna? Yeah. The question now is, and this would have been good for Truman too. How is he gonna handle that celebrity level?
exactly. He comes out and all of a sudden, like, does he end up with Sylvia? And then it ends up like NTV where he starts thinking that he starts believing his own hype. Then he goes after Elizabeth Early.
Mhm. So I don't know if you caught this, but in Sylvia's room, did you see that she had the sign up from the parachuter guy that flew in to tell him it was just a TV show?
I didn't know. I noticed she had a lot of stuff in there. Like it literally looked like she ran a movement. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that is something they really could have expanded on. Like this could have been a 2.5 hour movie, and there would have been enough material.
Mhm.
You expand on why is all these accidents happening all around the same time? Is there somebody behind that? If they wanted to tackle that story, Sylvia running the resistance on the outside of Truman's world and what they're up to, and maybe expand more on like when they had those people who showed up out of nowhere. Like how was that set up? Maybe I don't know. Like, but there's so many ways that they could expand on the Truman Show and make a whole universe out of it, where you could have and, like, when Truman finally escapes, but they could even do another show where, like, it's another Truman, and they could show the child, and everybody was like, "No, not again, and this is so horrible," and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Yeah, I just see so much potential in this property that
Mhm.
they haven't done anything with.
Well, one thing that I caught really watching this time that I never really thought about was how intricate everything would have been set up if this was real.
Yeah.
Because you had the part where he goes to the bus station and purchases a ticket to go to Chicago. You had to have those people sitting on that bus every single time, knowing that the probability of meeting Truman is slim to none.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. They all had earpieces. You just have the guy saying, "He's heading towards the bus station. Get people to the bus station right now."
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but they have to be roles that he doesn't really recognize.
But the thing is, they screwed that up too because the guy who ran the ferry driver and the bus driver, same guy.
Yes, correct. And I loved how, like, when you get the bus scene, he has no idea how to drive a bus, so you could see that in his facial expression. He did a great job of that.
Oh, yeah, that was done really well, and then later he didn't know how to run the ferry, and they kinda just, doubled down on that joke, and
Mhm,
I don't the fact that he spends his entire life in this bubble, maybe the fact that he keeps seeing the same faces,
mhm.
maybe he's kinda over it, and he just assumes that a lot of people just look the same.
That could be.
I mean, he does have those 2 twins that stop him every single day on his way into work. So maybe he just figures that everybody has a twin, and That's why he keeps seeing the same people over and over again. I don't know.
That could be. Now, I just thought of something right now, is that they show the span of this dome that he's in and how much of the country it takes up. How did they relocate all those people that are originally there? Like, are those the actors? Are like, or do they go to these areas and say, "Hey, we're gonna be running a show in this area. You either are gonna be an actor or you gotta get the crap out."
They might have, yeah, might have just went and said, "Hey, here's some money to buy your place, and
Mhm.
if you don't accept it, we'll just do eminent domain and just take your property."
Yeah. Man, that's crazy.
California state government had just approved a bill today to take an entire town. There is a town in New England, I believe it's in Rhode Island, that is the setting for Sea Haven. They literally did go to a New England town, and they paid to close the whole town off and film the movie.
But the people who go back there afterwards.
Yes, they were allowed to stay there. In fact, a lot of the extras, I think, were people who actually lived in the place that was the setting for Sea Haven.
Yeah. This, you'd actually have to literally relocate everybody that's in the area, and they're not going back.
That's one of the questions 'cause like I said, the premise I like the premise more than I like the move the the premise more than I like the movie in this situation, and I have thought about I put the women wonder what guys think about all day. This is something I think about all day, not all the time, but, like, how would they do the Truman Show in real life? Is it even
Yeah.
possible? I know it's illegal. It's not legal.
Mhm.
None of this is legal.
Yeah.
But say it was legal, would they logistically be able to do this? And with the dome and everything, the dome kind of makes it impossible
Mhm.
with the weather
Yeah.
and all that. We don't have that technology yet. That's why when the description that I read, it said science fiction. It is.
Yeah.
It is a science, which I never thought of it that way, but it is a science fiction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
I
and the Truman Show actually has a subtle message, a kind of subtle message that if you're not really paying attention to the end, you'll probably miss it because you're thinking of the Truman Show and, oh, the whole message about being trapped in a cage and so forth. It has a subtle message where you have the two security guards that when the Truman Show is no more, their first reaction is, okay, well, what do you want to watch now? And it really displays that we're a culture that has to be watching something, no matter what it is, at all times.
yeah.
We have to have something on. So as soon as this is over, which everyone across the world was watching, their next reaction is move to the next thing.
Yeah. And the fundamental difference between EdTV and not UHF, EdTV and the Truman Show, both movies are technically about the same thing. It's a reality show following somebody in their life. The difference, of course, being that in EdTV, this was under contract. He agreed to this. They're
Mhm,
paying him.
mhm,
Um, and it's a study of what happens when you're an ordinary guy who gets turned into an international celebrity, and all of a sudden, the stuff that used to be good enough isn't good enough anymore. But then you later realize, you end up coming home at the end and realizing that the thing you wanted in the beginning is still the thing that you want.
mhm,
Um, where the Truman Show, you get to see this different side where it's literally a caged animal. He's
mhm.
never been outside in the real world. He doesn't know. Everything around him is fake. I'd like to know that's another thing they could expand on with the TV, if they did a TV show. The contracts that these actors have to be under.
Yeah.
This woman has to sleep with him.
Mhm. Yep.
Like, they were planning to have a child. So she has to sire his child.
Yeah. There's a realization that he's the star, and I think that may pull some weight in how she feels about him.
But he says in himself when they have the fight in the kitchen over the cocoa beans, he says, "You can't even stand me." And
Mm.
that's something that he's picked up over years, that this
Yeah.
woman can't stand him.
Mhm.
But she
Yeah.
was the hired actress, and she keeps renewing her contract or whatever. And like I said, in the TV show, they can expand on that. Well, or like the contract negotiations. Have it where, like, his wife goes to work one day, but all what she really is doing is she has a meeting with the higher ups, and they're gonna talk about her contract extension.
Mhm.
And she can go over all the stuff that happened the previous year. They could use it to make a clip show if they want. Everybody hates clip shows, but they could make it like, they could do the clip shows they do in Rick and Morty, where none of these clips actually happened in a previous episode, which are those are the best kind of clip shows when these are new clips. They just don't have enough story to make a whole episode about it, so they put it into a clip show. They could do stuff like that. Like, there's like, oh my god, it drives me nuts. How much? Somebody answer to me. How much do they want to buy the Truman Show IP? I will buy it and fucking develop it. The boat is there. You just need to make a set sail.
I do want to point out a couple scenes in the Truman Show. One was a really great scene. The other one was a missed opportunity. The I got it. The part with the operating room. Oh man, they're like, well, we don't know what to do. The guy was not under anesthesia, and the realization that they're like, okay, we got to do this part because he's watching. And it reminded me of watching that, like, Hell in a Cell, where
Yeah.
they're like going through this torture just for the enjoyment of people.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, man, this person, if this was a real situation, this person now actually has to get their leg amputated without anesthesia just because Truman made that turn to follow his wife to her work.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, what level would this person now despise Truman for what just happened to them?
But the thing is that, do you despise Truman or do you despise the show? Because
That's true. That's a
if
good
you
point.
if you fully dive into the Truman character and everything, if you're fully buying into it, then he doesn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like getting mad at your dog for barking. Your dog doesn't know. Truman's a caged animal, and he's just studying his environment. He knows a lot more than he probably should know for somebody who's never been outside of Sea Haven. Like the fact that,
Mhm.
like we've talked about before, how does he know that it's weird that his wife's talking to him with an advertisement? He's seen it so often. He's seen it so often. He just figured that my wife is just weird. That's just what she does. I'll let it pass because I love her. She's my wife.
She's got a heck of imagination, basically.
Yeah, she really likes the products that she buys. Really, really loves the products that she buys. Maybe she's got some version of autism, and she just gets obsessed about the new thing that she just bought at the grocery store. I don't know, you know.
The missed opportunity in this, I think, was sloppy writing because there's a scene where he and his friend are out drinking beers, and Truman's bringing up all the weird stuff that's coming that's popping up around him, and his friend says,
That is one of the cruelest scenes in the entire movie.
yes, but they messed it up.
Here, and he's talking about, "Hi, I'm your best friend, and I'm your brother, and I love you, and I would never lie to you. If I would be part of it if there was something to hide, and there's nothing to hide."
That's where they screwed up. That's where they messed up. He said if everyone was, think about it, if everyone was in on it, I'd be in on it too. They needed to stop that line there because at that point he's actually not lying to Truman. But then they go as far as him saying something along the lines of, "But I'm not in on anything." And that's where that screwed up the power of that scene. Because
If he would've just kept it if he would've just kept it there, yeah, he would've been telling the truth, and then he would've said, "Well, I'm not part of it," and you're saying, like, "Trust me." It's just gets these it's kinda creepy vibes in a way. It's almost like, "Trust me, kid, go ahead and take this marijuana cigarette," or whatever, I don't know, like, "Go ahead and take this shot, it's fine, trust me, I'm your friend." It's
yeah. And he did a really good job on that part of making it feel like he didn't wanna say what he had to say.
yeah. I think they should have made a joke that when he was gone for a month, that they should have said, "It's weird that you came back and you looked a little different." I would have loved that they to imply that they had to change actors at some point, at least for one
Yeah.
of the roles, because the show's been on the air for 30 years, and you're saying that his best friend from when he was, like, 5 years old, it's the same actor you've been able to hold on to this entire time.
Yeah.
No.
It's he had nothing better to do in his life. And I'm sure they're getting well compensated for being on the show.
Yeah, and that once again, that's stuff that they could expand on if there was a television show.
Mm.
How much are these people getting paid? You know, they maybe could like they could start off showing an interview with somebody who used to be on the show and their character got killed off, and you could say, "Well, you know, I got a piece of my house." I don't know. Uh yeah. Also, like, what kind of life do you have outside of this thing? You're an actor, but like, other than his wife, who needs to be there 24 hours a day? Nobody does. You can go out and go be outside in the outside world at some point, right?
Well, his best friend kinda had to be there because they used him for a backup when things are going bad.
Yeah, he was an emergency backup. But like, yeah, like the guy at the newspaper stand.
Yeah.
Does he go home at night, or does he live in Sea Haven and he's doing a contract of a 24-hour, 365 contract?
I would assume that he lives in Sea I would assume that all of them live in Sea Hammond just off the danger of them going home. They could end up getting in a car crash, and then they can't come back to their role the next day, and they'll have to figure out a way to have somebody else fill in for that
That
role until that person arrives.
And they gotta have a rotation of people because he didn't know everybody.
Yeah, true.
Lee Haven strikes me as a small enough town where if you don't at least know everybody, you know most of the people.
Yeah.
And he didn't know a bunch of people, don't get me wrong, but he didn't know as many people as I think you would know if you unless he's just not that sociable. But who the hell would wanna watch a show where the guy is like a lump on the log? You know, if you want a sociable guy who people like. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So we both agree that The Truman Show is an excellent movie. I It's on my 4K wish list. So once
Mhm.
the price goes low enough for a 4K copy, I'm gonna pick it up. It's been like 20 something dollars. It's the same reason I don't have Sabrina.
Uh-huh.
Like it's just too much for a 4K copy right now.
When you get it, next time you see it, keep an eye out for this because this is something that I caught last time watching it. When his best friend is stalking the vending machine.
Yeah, he keeps taking the stuff out and putting it back in.
Yes,
He-
exactly.
Yeah, because he's trying to extend it.
Exactly.
I am so tempted to start a vending machine company.
Mhm.
It's something I've actually looked into, and I could if I can get the church contracts, but I'd have to talk them into it, but that would be, like, awesome.
Mhm.
I'd just like, "Yeah, I'll split the profits with the church, and then you just, only my machines are allowed in the church, and I stock them."
Mhm. Yeah.
But, but there's one building I know we can't do it in because they already have a similar setup with somebody else, but the other 3 buildings we could.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm thinking out loud about that. Are we ready to wrap this up? Take this, good afternoon, good evening, and good night it?
I think we are.
Do you want the
Well,
last word or
if you're giving me a last word, I got the last word.
okay, hold on, let me get this thing ready for the last word, and I can hit a button and stop it. Okay, go ahead.
Spinal Tap.